Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen, nabiyyina Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'du, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. That whenever it comes to a matter of, any matter really, ask the people of remembrance if you do not know. We live in an era, and it's a phrase I heard somebody use, in which it's an era of the democratization of knowledge. I always struggle to pronounce that word. Well, that's what he told me, or when I heard that phrase, is that now everybody has access to knowledge. I sort of said, well, okay, I don't fully agree with the statement. I will say democratization of information. That information is easily and widely available. Similarly, that has then opened the door of a lack of accountability, and it has opened the door of a lack of authenticity. So we find now that every man and his kitten, obviously dogs are frowned upon in the Sharia, so let's just choose something a little bit more Islamic friendly. We'll set up an account on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook, and basically, whatever, some platform. They don't, it takes 3 seconds, if that. Add the laqab sheikh in front of their name and start espousing and giving views. Unfortunately, because of the bridge and the gap that we as a community have formed between the Masjid, Madrasa, which is a place of the ulama, and us as recipients of that knowledge, this becomes an easy way now of accessing ilm. Oh, that's what we perceive. So, it's not even, it's the blind leading the blind. No one asks any questions about the authenticity of that person who's giving views. And you even will put a disclaimer, I'm not a scholar, but. You even say that I'm not a scholar, but my opinion is this. And he gives his opinion. And we live in a world of opinions. Everybody has an opinion. And everybody feels they should express their opinion. And everybody feels that they should be listened to equally. So it is a time of confusion, even though there is more information. In fact, there's never been more a time of confusion. We saw that as well with the vaccine. When the vaccine was being introduced 6 months or so ago. And ulama have been asked questions about matters which they have been given answers to for centuries. Well, now we live in this other area, this other world. So now everybody was expressing an opinion of whether it's permissible or impermissible to take this. And you had people being very aggressive in how they were espousing that view. So we live in these unfortunate times, and where there's this mass confusion. It is for this reason, I can speak personally for myself and maybe other ulama as well, have moved a little bit onto the social media platform, begrudgingly and hesitantly. We know the issues with imagery and how that can be sometimes, if we adopt a certain position, can sometimes be seen as problematic. Obviously, once we go onto social media, it comes with its other issues as well. But balancing the good with the bad, if that's where the audience is, then that's where the ulama should try to go. If the masjid is no longer in the masjid, if the masjid now has to go to the people, then so be it. Really, it was never that way around. Talabul ilm, talib, is one who seeks knowledge. He was the one that would go. But now, unfortunately, we live in a different era, a different time, so we have that approach. Whenever we're taking any knowledge of anybody, we need to ensure that they are delivering authentic knowledge. And not only are we taking knowledge from this person, we should look at the character of this person. We'll only gain that by spending time with that person. Is this a person of taqwa? Is this a person of piety? Okay? I'm taking knowledge from this person. I'm taking right and wrong from this person. Is this person endorsed and authenticated by reliable ulama? Do they give their thumbs up to him? Do they approve him? Is he by his contemporaries and his peers accepted? These are signs that we look at in order to determine. And then does he uphold the tradition? I hear many individuals who study in a traditional madrasa with traditional texts, but then they give views which go completely against the tradition. And then they always use that card that, oh, I'm also been to a madrasa, as though that is a get out of jail card, that now I can say what I want. No, in reality, the fact that you've been to a madrasa means now you have a position that the madrasa has taught you, and that's the position you now need to espouse. There will always be, alhamdulillah, a small group from amongst them who will be at the fringes, practicing ijtihad on novel matters. That is a necessity. There will always be amongst our ulama those that will be on the fringes, who will be tackling these new issues, whether it be cryptocurrency, whether it be certain vaccines, whether it be whatever, because the madhab will only have principles to deal with that. It won't be dealing with cryptocurrency, because the phenomenon did not exist. So whilst we maintain the tradition and those ulama that are accepted within the tradition, we will always have a very small percentage that will be on the fringes, that will deal with the day-to-day issues, so we can continue to practice our deen in the 21st century, on the moon, or anywhere on this planet, whatever culture we are. We know and understand that husnul su'al nisful ilm. Asking a good question is half of knowledge. So how we put our question is essential as well. There are etiquettes and adabs. Many of us have them, those who are slightly elder generation, what they will do, and I've seen that today, alhamdulillah, or over the days I've been here, they will come and they sit at a distance from you, but within eye vision of you, and they won't disturb you, and they will just sit there, waiting for the scholar or the person to free himself up from the task that he's doing, whether he's reciting the Quran, whether he's reflecting, whether he's contemplating, whether he's dealing with some personal issue on the phone, whatever he's doing, until he is ready now to receive this person. These were the etiquettes that we were taught. Now, obviously we live in a different world now, so ulama are more recipient to people who may not know those etiquettes, who may just sort of barge in and say, oh, by the way, I've got this question, whatever, you know. And that's the ulama having to be somewhat more flexible. But there are etiquettes to asking questions, because asking questions is an act of worship. Similarly, there are two types of people that don't ask questions. And this becomes a block for people to learn. One is those who are embarrassed. So people who get embarrassed, they don't ask questions. You know, if I ask that question, people will say, oh my God, don't you know how to pray Surah Fatiha? So I'm going to stay quiet. I'm not going to ask about how do I do ghusl. I'm 27 years old. They're going to say, what, you don't even know how to do ghusl, you're 27 years old. People will laugh at me. So what that does is stops us asking knowledge. What happens? We stay ignorant. Okay? Like the person who feels a pain in the side of his back, and he doesn't go to the doctors because he thinks the doctor might say something bad. Yeah, but by just ignoring it, it's not going to go away. And the other person who doesn't ask questions is the arrogant person, because he thinks he knows it all. Why should he ask a question for? He's always got an opinion, and he expresses his opinion. So these two types of people, or if we have any of those traits in us, then this is obviously dangerous. We need to remove them. We need to work against them in order to be able to better. I wanted to just give that as a background, and then inshallah I will start to answer some of these questions. How do you keep a balance or success in this dunya. You know, having a job, earning a living, without steering away from our purpose in this life. This is a question which obviously we all reflect over in everyday life. There are certain people upon whom Allah SWT has made work compulsory. For the man, work is compulsory. He has to do it because he has to earn for his wife, and he has to earn for his children, or earn for any dependents that he has. He has no choice. But he should only earn sufficient for the person's upkeep. Not to the point where we actually live to work, where our hours get longer and longer, and we're just saving more and more money. And we're saying, you know, there might be a rainy day. I'm saving for a rainy day. And we continue to save more and more and more, without any thought that what am I doing with regards to my deen? What am I doing with regards to my ilm? The key point to remember, is that our purpose in this life is to succeed in this life. To succeed in this life is to pass and get into Jannah. That's the purpose of this life. Okay, that's the purpose. But we need to survive in this world long enough to live longer, so we've got more chance of getting to Jannah. That's really it. So how do we do that? Well, we have needs. We've got to eat and drink. So we've got to be able to earn to eat and drink. We need time to spend with our wives, children. We need to educate ourselves in the deen. So we have all these aspects to look at. But the first thing we have to do before all of this is get our orientation right. If our orientation isn't right, then even if we're spending, you know, only 2-3 hours working, the rest of our life will be wasted anyway. Once we get our orientation right and we find out what our purpose for living is, then we take a more balanced approach to our life. And this will come with time. So there's no quick answer. Success in this dunya is not the goal. We are not supposed to succeed in this dunya. Even if we fail in this dunya, it does not matter. Okay? It does not matter. If you don't get a good job, if you're not high, you know, earning £50,000, if you don't have 4 degrees, you know, that doesn't matter. Yeah? That's not the goal of this life. Yeah, obviously it makes sense that if you could get a job where you're earning twice as much than in that job, then it makes sense to get that job and reduce your hours so you can do more work of deen. Yeah, that makes sense, okay? So that's logical. That's not, you know, that would be stupid if you could get a job where you're earning, you know, £20 an hour, and a job where you're going to get £10 an hour. You say, oh, I'll take that one. You know, that's common sense. You take that one so you can now give more zakah. You can give more sadaqah. You can give more lillah. You can work less hours. It's less strenuous. But the success in this world is not a necessity. Success in the hereafter is a necessity. What's happened to us is what, if we go back to say the 1940s and the 1950s, work was a headache. People did not enjoy going to work. What's happened now is the way society's changed it, is now having a career is like a big thing. You know, where even family now becomes secondary. Where the career is so important, women don't want to have children. They say, well, jeopardize my career. As though now career is the reason why we're alive. So what was something we did out of necessity, a job, has now actually become something that we live for. So we have to balance that out as well. So the purpose in this life is success in the hereafter. That is the simple, black and white purpose of this life. To succeed in the hereafter. You do what you need to do to be able to succeed. You can become Hafiz of Quran, alhamdulillah, become Hafiz of Quran. You can become scholar of deen, become a scholar of deen. You don't have the capacity or aptitude for any of those skills, you can help people, help people. You can build things. Use whatever assets Allah has given to you to bank your Jannah. But obviously, you've got to live in a house. You can't live, you know, outside. You may have to drive a car. You got to eat. You got to wear clothes. Now, what some of us might do is we've got a chance to buy, say, a £10,000 car or a £5,000 car, so we buy a £20,000 car. Now, if you could have bought a £5,000 car, why do you buy a £10,000 car for? What was the rationale for it? Because you could have saved that 5,000, and then you could have worked less hours. Those hours you could have done some voluntary work in the masjid. Those hours you could have gone out and knocked on doors and invited brothers to the masjid. Why use those limited 10 hours, 5 hours that you've got? Instead of banking for the hereafter, you bank for the dunya. Why? You've got enough for the dunya. Why not bank it for the hereafter? So, we should be envious in a good way, ghibt, not, hasad, of those people, alhamdulillah, who dedicate several hours a day for the hereafter and maybe 4 or 5 hours for the dunya. That seems a good balance. If we can get 50-50, that's a good balance. But you look at your own day. We wake up in the morning, obviously don't count Ramadan, after Eid. Think how many hours you're doing for the dunya and think how many hours you're doing for the akhirah in that 24 hours you have. And if you're doing 20 hours for the dunya, because sleeping is for the dunya, it's not for the akhirah. Yeah, we sleep for the dunya. Right? So only 4 hours if we're doing for the akhirah, that's not too bad. But if we're doing 10 minutes for the akhirah, then all we're doing is surviving, because that's just survival. We're surviving another day. We're surviving another day. So if you had a project, let's just say you were on an island, okay, and you wanted to build a house to live in, and then let's make it a little bit more exciting. You wanted to build a raft to get off this island. And every day, all you managed to do was survive. Are you going to get off this island? No. Because you haven't even started chopping the wood down to make the raft. All you've done is survive another day. Then you survived another day. Then you survived another day. So day 26, you're on this island. You haven't even chopped one single piece of wood down. How are you going to get off this island? Eventually, you're going to die, aren't you? Some wild creature's going to eat you, or you're going to get infected by some illness, and then you're going to die, so you're going to die on the island. That's the dunya. The dunya is, we've got to survive, obviously. We've got to eat, we're going to die otherwise. But we've got to be prepared to get off this island and succeed. Number 2, living with in-laws. How do you deal with conflict? Living with people necessitates conflict. That's just life. Okay, let's accept that. Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was sent as what? As a khalifa, khalafa, khilaf. There's always going to be, if there's 2 people in a room, there's 2 opinions. There's always going to be khilaf. For that reason, the Sharia establishes an Amir system. We pick the best person amongst us to be the Imam or the Amir. He takes all the burdens on his poor shoulders. It mentions this as though he is slaughtered with a blunt knife. That poor guy, whoever the Amir is, don't ever ask to be an Amir. Somebody puts it on you and say, no, give it to that brother, give it to that brother. Unfortunately, because we like the celebrity status, we say, no, I'll be Amir, I'll be Amir. That person who asks Amir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts a burden on him. That person who is forced to become an Amir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assists him. So we should have in the house an Amir. That Amir should be a religious man. Should be a male. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has always given that authority to a male. He should not be a zalim. He should not be a dictator. An Amir, if you look at the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is we use it now in business terms. Those who've done MBAs, we call him a servant leader. They always thought, all these big CEOs, that you had to be an alpha male, aggressive guy, go in there, sort people out. And that was the best form of leader. But that only takes you a certain distance. Because that works on fear. The leader who gets the best out of people is the leader who is amongst the people. So when the Prophet of Allah, when people would come, delegations would come to Masjid Nabwi, they could not tell who Nabi Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. Because they were all sat in a circle as equals. Where would the Prophet of Allah sit to eat? He would sit with the humble and the meek and the poor. When he would pray, would he pray according to the taqwa of Sayyidina Abu Bakr? No, he would pray according to the woman in the back self whose child is crying. You are only as strong as your weakest member in your team. When there would be a caravan, he himself would ensure there would normally be 1 or 2 people that he would have at the back of the caravan. So as the people were going, that this person, if anybody dropped anything or if a child got lost, this person at the back would pick that person up. Rasulullah would also ensure that he would go back to make sure everybody was moving along. That's the type of leader he was, a servant leader. That's the type of leader we are supposed to be. Our wives should love working with us, not hate. If our wives hate us, we have a problem. Well, we have a big problem, because you can put all sorts in your salad at night. And also bear in mind you sleep next to her, so the apnea you're getting is not actually apnea. Right? Because when you wake up, you've got these like finger marks on your neck and you're thinking, what was that? And she said, maybe a jinn or something. I don't know. You just started coughing middle of the night. I was just shaking you to wake you up. Oh. You know, so we've got to have that, Shia must have that respect and love. The children must also have that respect and love. Then that is a sound place. Brothers disagree. Okay, brothers argue. So then when this young lady comes into this house, for her it's a big step. She's left her father's house. I'm a father, I have 2 daughters. I'm sure many of you have daughters. We know how difficult it is to let our daughters go. It's not an easy thing. You know, when you've raised a child and protected a child and taught a child from such a small age, and then they become a grown woman, and you know one day she has to leave your house, and some other man is going to now take her responsibility to look after her, you want to make sure that guy does a good job. So when she goes, she's in this new house, new tertib, new things. We need to make sure that she is welcome there. So she doesn't feel the loss of her parents. She doesn't feel the loss of that, what she's gone through. Once we provide that, then there needs to be mashwara made. People should sit down and have open discussion. That, by this is the way this house works. Anybody has any ishkal, they bring it forward like this. When that ishkal is brought forward, we sit down, we have a family meeting. We discuss it and we resolve it. Khilaf will always be there. If you live in a house where there's no khilaf, mashallah, invite me please. Adopt me, I will become your son. Right? Because there's no house like that. There's no house like that. And that's normal. So having differences, disputes, is how we resolve them. That's the problem. Is normally, unfortunately, we're slightly dysfunctional. We think by shouting loudly, it will solve the problem. It doesn't. It makes the problem worse. So we need to sit down, we need to talk to people, resolve it. But what's your ishkal? Okay, let me hear this. Look, don't be so silly, this, that, and let's resolve it. Once communication stops, then that's a problem. So I hope that answers that question. I know the questions are piling up, so I'm going to speed up a little bit. Different Islamic scholars have given different opinions about house mortgages. Some have even declared it completely halal, and some permitted it as a last option. When it is clearly haram in Islam, then why these famous scholars are coming up with this flexibility? Is there any such flexibility in Islam? I don't know of any famous scholars who have said it is halal. Any scholars who do give it as halal, what they're trying to do is to look at the people. So they know that the halat we are in a Muslim minority country, is that people want to buy houses. Because people want to buy houses, they are trying to find loopholes, trying to interpret texts in order to help people buy houses. So that's their intention. I will say with husn dhan that is what their intention is. They're trying to, Qari Sahib disagrees. Oh no, he agrees. No, the husn dhan. Yeah. So they're doing it with husn dhan. Okay? They're trying their best to accommodate our needs. Okay? So they will say, let's take the Hanafi position, and the Hanafi position says that in Darul Harb there's no Sharia, and if there's no Sharia in Darul Harb, we'll call Britain Darul Harb. I know it doesn't really fit properly, but let's just do that anyway. Once we've called Britain Darul Harb, then there's no Sharia in Darul Harb. If there's no Sharia in Darul Harb, then the bay which takes place between a dhimmi, or in this case a non-Muslim and a Muslim, is not, the laws of the Sharia don't apply to them, because it's out of the jurisdiction of the Darul Islam, because the jurisdiction of the Sharia only applies within Dar Islam. You know, can I be arrested for something I do in England that goes against French law? No, because I'm not in France, I'm in England. Okay? Would I be arrested for doing something that's illegal in the States but legal in England? Of course I wouldn't, because I'm in England. So in the same way, Darul Islam and Darul Harb are two different domains. So when a country is in Darul Islam, Sharia applies there. Darul Harb, it doesn't apply there. So some people will look for those. In essence, and the bottom line is that there is, when it comes to this, the bay, it is haram to be involved in a bay in which there is riba. Okay, so that such flexibility does not exist. But I just want to explain why the ulama give those views. Muslims, are Muslims allowed to go to non-Muslim funerals? What sort of relationship should... So the view, so the view is, the traditional view is that engaging in commercial mortgages is impermissible. Okay, if I wasn't clear, that is the traditional position. That's my position. That is the position of Wifaqul Ulama. That is the position of any traditionally trained scholar, that this is not Darul Harb. Okay, if it was Darul Harb, we cannot build a masjid, we cannot pray Jummah Salah, and there's so many things we cannot do in Darul Harb. Okay, so this is not Darul Harb. This is Darul Amal, right? Darul Harb, you cannot keep this, you cannot pray Salah, you cannot declare, like what we're seeing unfortunately with our brothers in Yin Yang province. Okay, that is Darul Harb, where they're being taken and re-educated so they cannot profess their religion. That's nothing is happening to us. We can practice our religion freely. So we cannot engage in the commercial mortgages in which we borrow a certain amount and give back extra amount back. That is a transaction, money for money. When we're transacting money for money, there cannot be an increase on either side. It has to be like for like. Mathalan bi mathalin, yadan bi yadin. Hadith is clear. Right? It has to be like for like. This is, and I can go in a long lecture to you about why this operates. Philosophically, the Sharia wants to enrich the poor, okay, and share the wealth of the rich amongst the poor. Capitalism wants to abuse the poor and make the rich richer. You know, whilst all of us were scratching our heads as our income dropped during the COVID lockdown, the rich people actually became richer. That's the Ajib thing here. The people who are rich in the world, the billionaires, they actually became richer. And yet we became poorer. So this is just a transfer of wealth, because there wasn't no more wealth created. It's just the transfer of our wealth goes towards them. And the Sharia tries to move their wealth towards the poor. So it's philosophically completely different. But that's the financial system we live in, unfortunately. Because as a community, as a ummah, we're weak. So we are, the World Bank, the whatever bank, or IMF, all these banks are based on riba, and we have to operate within them. So even though Pakistan is Islamic Republic of Pakistan, it has to operate within that. Even though it was founded upon Islamic principles. That was the whole reason why Pakistan was founded, if we go back historically. So are Muslims allowed to go to non-Muslim funerals? What sort of relationship should we have with them to coexist in this society? In India, Muslims are helping Hindus to burn their dead bodies. Are we allowed to do that? When it comes to Muslims and non-Muslims, we can engage in any activity with non-Muslims that is not of a religious nature. Okay, so anything which is not of a religious nature, we can work with non-Muslims. There's no limit to that at all. It's only when it becomes an issue of a religious nature. Okay, so would carrying dead bodies be of a religious nature? I would say no. Okay, it's not a religious act. It's not a ritual act. Would it mean that if you started to cremate them and pray over them, then yes, that's a religious act. So we have to differentiate between what are religious acts and non-religious acts. So for example, there are certain graveyards that may have the Ithna Ashara Shia group that also carry out burials. And the burial workers might be required to help. Now they can assist in the process of moving the body, placing the body in the ground. But can they start to do the janazah or prayer? No, they can't. So we can engage in anything of a civil nature, As I mentioned a couple of sessions ago when I spoke about the Ahli Kitab and how we can work together and on common ground, on common goals, anything of a religious nature, our Messenger of Allah was quite clear. Our deen is very clear. We have to differentiate on religious matters. Otherwise, we just become a voice like all the other voices, and our voice has to be distinct from all the other voices, because we claim that we speak for Allah. And if we speak for Allah, we cannot, like the way the mushrikun came up to Rasulullah and said, look, come on, let's come to some kind of agreement. Let's worship our idols one day and we worship your Allah the other day. What's wrong? Come on, this is interfaith. Right? What's wrong with you? You're being so stuck in your ways, and everybody else has come on board and you're the only one stuck in your ways. But Rasulullah said, no chance. So we can't do that. We cannot do that. We can't engage in, if say, people of faith came together to clean up East London, not that East London is dirty, or Walthamstow. If they came together to clean it, then of course we can join in. Faith join in to clean up East London. Alhamdulillah, we should be there. In fact, we should be leading. But if we say that something happens like Prince Philip dies and there's going to be a gathering in a church or a gathering in some place and we're all going to pray for Prince Philip, now we can't do that. That's not because we disrespect Prince Philip. We respect the monarchy, we respect the Queen, we respect everything else. However, religion forbids us to make prayer for those we know that haven't passed on Islam. So we have to be, the thing is we have to be confident in that. What we fear now is because the way the right-wing media and the right-wing press, the right-wing people have sort of conflated our religious beliefs with isolationism, with extremism, and whatever. We're scared even to mention our deen now. We say, should I mention that I pray Fajr? I better not say that because they might think I'm extreme. We're so scared now because we've also bought into that narrative. So we should be confident that we're able to differentiate between what are acts of worship and what some of our brothers do, which is wrong, which they shouldn't do. Cryptocurrency, yeah. Let's come to that one, shall we? Well, let me get rid of these, and then because I had that in the back of my mind. Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani mentions in his Fath al-Bari. Now you're testing my ilm here. Ibn al-Majishun, a contemporary of Imam Malik, said, only the people of the town where the witnessing occurs are obliged to fast unless it is established by the Khalif al-Imam al-Azam. I'm assuming Imam Malik was, Ibn al-Majishun was referring to Imam Abu Hanifa there. I say tongue-in-cheek. In such a case, all the people are obliged to fast because all the towns with respect to him are as one town, since his verdict is binding upon everyone. Translated by Sheikh Abdul Ibn Hamid Ali. Does this mean that moon sighting issue will only be resolved once we have installed an orthodox Khalif? Many issues will be resolved once we have established an orthodox Khalif. We won't be getting battered from pillar to post like unfortunately we see and that we're seeing in Philistine. And the best that we can do is, is share it on social media. That's how weak we are. That all we can do is take pictures and say, oh, look what is going on. But anyway, don't get me started on that particular topic. I get a little bit worked up and get a little bit emotional. So let's just focus on the fiqh. When it comes to Muslims living in a minority situation, then what we have is a shura of ulama that deal with our affairs. That's what we're supposed to do. Establish a shura of ulama that deals with our affairs. What I mean by deal with our affairs, they've got to make sure that we're eating halal. So their job is to make sure that halal services are available. They've got to make sure that we have a place to bury our dead. They've got to make sure that, there's people being trained to become ulama. That's their job to do. Okay? So and that's in the issue of moon sighting, we have a moon sighting committee to do that. Now, the issue that we get, and I'm kind of preempting tomorrow's conversation, tomorrow's discussion, is that when it comes to moon sighting, now we're starting to get 2, 3 bodies, maybe 4 bodies, all claiming to be representing us. So what do we do now? Before it was easy, we only had one body, nice and simple. We all follow that. So yes, having a Khalif would make this very simple, because he would have the authority, he would be able to enforce his laws, we would have little choice in that. But in our world where we have freedom of choice, in the world we live in as a minority, we can't choose. So who do we choose? So we should look into those moon sighting committees that exist and see their methods and their processes. Not just blindly follow what we're being told. Okay? We should go with that. And Masa, you can just say good kinship. Right, so that's that. There are a number of Quranic ayats and ahadith on the prohibition of interest, income interest, business and lending money on interest. However, all these are addressing the lender, the financier who is issuing on interest. Would you please quote any ayats from the Quran or hadith that address the receiver as well? All the verses, I just quickly had a glance at this. Surah Baqarah is the main part you go to. In Surah Baqarah, Allah SWT makes it clear, and it applies for everybody. الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. That the person who consumes, riba will not stand except like the one who stands يتخبطه, as though shaitan has touched him. So when we're talking about possession, and I'm surprised nobody asked me a question on possession, but when we're speaking of possession, that's the nearest we get to possession. Shaitan will impact him on such a way that he will be, his mind will go. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا الْبَيْءُ مِثْلُ riba. That is because they said doing business is like riba. So if you look at the way they twisted it, they didn't even say that riba is like business. They actually use riba as the asal and the business as the far. They said that business is like riba. Yeah, it's like, Messi plays like me. Not that I play like Messi. Which is true, obviously, in that particular example. No, it's not. I have to warn up. I've got the Musaf in front of me. No, it's not. Nothing like that whatsoever. I've been lucky to actually kick a ball straight. But anyway, now that I've made that confession, the point that I'm making is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here generally that they say riba is like business. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْءَ وَحَرَّمَ رِبَا. However, the big difference here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made bay halal and He has made riba haram. And this is what people don't get. They say, I sell this phone. I bought this phone for £800. I sold it for £1,000. I've made £200. So what's wrong with if I give you £800 and you give me £1,000 back? It's the same thing. Yeah? I bought this phone for 800 off you, and then I sold it back to you, say, for 1,000. So basically, whichever way, you get my idea. We've done a transaction in which one person has ended up with £200 more. And then we do another transaction, but this time there's no product involved, it's just money now, and where you end up with £200 more. In both situations, the conclusion is you end up with £200 more. One is there's a product involved, and one there's no product involved. So what's the difference? Because one, Allah has made halal, and one He has made haram. I go now to your local Mackey's, or send one of you guys because I'm in Itikaf, and you buy me what they say, like a chicken burger. Is it called chicken burger? Yeah. I'm sorry, I looked at you there. What is it? Well, what's the normal chicken meat? Chicken burger. Chicken? Burger. So I get chicken burger from McDonald's, and then I go to some halal place down here. Chicken spot. Chicken spot. Right? And I buy a chicken burger from there. And they're identical. They're the same, aren't they? Same, yeah. Both got bun, both got cheese, both got salad, both got sauce, both chicken. Yeah. One is halal, one is haram. Yeah. Say it now. Nare takbir. We need one of them in there. Where are you guys, man? You're my Nare takbir guys. That's the only reason I brought them in here. They haven't even whimpered yet. I hope your leg's okay. So what's the difference?
There's a big difference.
One is halal, one is Allah's pleasure, one is Allah's wrath. That's the difference. But physically, what's the difference? It's the same. So when we also look at, I was going to give you another example. When a Sahabi came to the Prophet of Allah and he was showing dates, and he says, we exchange these dates for these dates. But because, he says, you exchange them equally or worse to that effect. He says, no, because these dates are a better quality, we swap like one bag of these for 2 bags of these poor quality. So the Prophet ﷺ said, don't do that, because that's riba. Instead, and this is where hila comes from, where, mashallah, all of us are experts in, he says, instead, sell the good quality dates, get the money, and then buy the poor quality dates. The result is the same. The result is the same, but the method, one is haram and one method is halal. One method, because of your fear of Allah, you've gone through all this, And this one because you don't care what Allah says you've done this. That's the difference. Okay, that's the difference. So hopefully that answers that. Okay, Bitcoin again. So we'll come to that. And you guys are Londoners and your Bitcoins, eh? My parents live in Pakistan while I am here with my wife and kids. My parents say that they are happy I am here due to professional growth, but I know inside they're sad. What should I do? Should I go back to them? Thank you. Well, it depends, you know, if you're looking here in terms of fulfilling their rights, you know, do they have somebody to look after them there? If they don't have anybody to look after them there, then yes, clearly, you know, that context is very different. It doesn't matter who's asked the question. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, okay. So, you know, it really depends. You know, we all know our parents, and sometimes our parents, you know, are very sacrificing. You know, they're always very giving up. I don't know if that brother's here, but, you know, mashallah, that brother who sits here, you know, he always does a little recording on the little metal thing. And then I asked him afterwards, and he does it for his children. You know, mashallah, look at the love he has. He knows his children won't be able to listen, so he makes sure every dars, you know, he's recording it and whatever. So parents, alhamdulillah, have a lot of love for their children, so the parent will look and think, I'm going to be causing a problem for my child, you know. If we say that we're struggling here in Pakistan and he's getting on with his own life or she's getting on with her own life, whatever. So we have to look at the context that they're in. If we can provide substance for them, if we can look after them, if they need somebody physically there, if we can hire somebody, whatever, if that can be done, and we want to, you know, we've got our issues here as well, and trying to balance both can be difficult, then fine. But if not, then obviously you need to explore that, because, you know, when you have an opportunity to do khidmah for your children, okay, then khidmah for your parents, then why would you miss out on that chance? So that's the short. I'll come back to the Bitcoin one. Can I say Eid Mubarak to someone who started their fasting one day before me? Yeah, come tomorrow, inshallah. A good one. Okay. More questions. Currently, there are two Sahari Fajr times. One is a lot earlier, and the other one is a lot later. Which one is right? Depends how hungry you are. How can one be doing tawbah and praying tahajjud, namaz, and the other one is praying Fajr and fasting, or fast asleep in his bed? Please discuss. Well, the one that is right is the one that I follow. You wouldn't hear anything different, would you? This is a very long answer. So it's very difficult to kind of encapsulate in a few minutes. But basically, it's how we determine when night starts and how we determine when morning starts. And because we don't go out to make observations anymore, then with these, what we're seeing is that we have to go with an astronomical phenomenon to determine that. As I said, it's going to just get a bit deep. We've written numerous papers and articles on it. If you go to Wifaqul Umar's website, actually, hold on. The fatwa's just come in. Follow Masjid Umer. There you go. That's the answer. Okay. So I appreciate it's a short answer, but there's lots of information on Wifaqul Umar's website. Go there. Look under, I think, Salah Times, lots of research papers, lots of work done, alhamdulillah. Wifaqul Umar do a lot of work. Sorry? Oh yes, I did forget the app. And there's also obviously the app as well, which has lots of information. It's not just where it gives you the times or anything. I don't know if you can see it. It doesn't just give you the times, but it gives you a lot of information as well, if it works. So you've got lots of choice on the menu there, and also when you go to Salah Times, it tells you, you know, Isha adjustments, it explains it as well. So and then there's links to take you off to other websites for more information. So there's a lot of information there. Reciting Durood Sharif al-Dhikr are the smaller versions as Afdal as Durood Ibrahim. Is it okay to recite the smaller simplers? There are so many. Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, the deen isn't, you know, trying to make it constricted and make it so difficult that, you know, you have to do this in a certain way or whatever. I know when you go with people for Hajj and Umrah, then they'll have the guide to Hajj or guide to Umrah, they'll be reading it and they'll say, okay, take one right foot step forward, okay, we've done that now. Take your next, okay, your left foot, right, okay, stand still, okay, the guy just pushed me, let's start again, right, you know, it's not that prescriptive, okay, you know, there's a level of, you know, flexibility there. As long as you know the main, but the main thing is that the answer as always is follow Masjid Umer. That's going to be my answer for most now. Now what I mean is, if you go with a renowned scholar, if you go with a respectful scholar, then just listen to him. Okay, listen, that's what he's there for, you know. The Sahaba learned from the practice of the Prophet of Allah. So go with somebody who is recognized, go with somebody who is respected, and follow him. When praying Dhuhr and Asr prayer in Jamaat behind Imam, what should one be reading? Well, according to the Ahnaf, and I give you the Ahnaf's position, is one shouldn't be reciting anything. Thana, obviously one recites. Takbirat we do. Tasbihat when we're in ruku, when we're in sujood, and when we're praying in the qaida, we do tahiyyat, shahada, durud, and dua. So we don't do the qira, yani because the qira of the Imam is the qira of the muqtadi, according to the Ahnaf. Obviously, I'm only giving you the Ahnaf position. You, the madahib, will say la salata illa bi fatihil kitab, so you know which salah is you will require. You know, I don't want to confuse people. Putting a gravestone on a grave, is it permissible? What to write on it? Should Arabic be used? Please advise. Yes, there is permissibility to place. The main thing for a grave is so that it is recognized as a grave. That's really the asl. That's why you make a hump, because you know people used to die when they were traveling, so that people don't sit there or urinate or defecate there. There would be a hump, and then they would place a rock there, so you would know that there's someone buried here. It is your responsibility to know where your loved ones are. You know, if it's a bit sad if you can't remember where your loved one is buried because you come once every year, and then you can't find them. However, the ulama have given permissibility for having something there which has at least the person's name, maybe date of birth, date of death, and that's it. Something small, no bigger than, you know, the size of an iPad or something, and that's there. Anything beyond that is no. You know, if you want something, you know, we think that what we're putting on top of the grave is actually reaching the person in the grave. This again is our limited understanding, because we work on the dunya, and this is really satisfying our egos. Like, I did something for mum. You know, I bought this pebble which says, you know, mum, you're this, you're that, you're that. Your mum doesn't know what you put there. She hasn't the foggiest. You're doing this for your ego. Now, what do you want to send in there? Do you want to send light in there? Do you want to send nice scents in there, nice smell in there? Do you want that grave to open up? You want to do these things? Right? Then Isalithwa. Do you want light to go into the grave? Do good deeds for her. Light will go into the grave. You don't need to put garden lights. That light will go into the grave. You want a nice perfume to go, instead of burning those scent sticks on top of the grave, which is only perfuming the air. It's not going into the grave. Don't forget that person is buried 6 foot under. How is the smell going to go down there? Do good deeds. Good smell will go down there. You want that grave to open up, expand, and let the person sleep. Do good deeds in there then. Set up a masjid, set up an orphanage, say do this, do what you can do. That is there. Don't buy 30, 40 pound flowers which are going to be there, and then as soon as you walk out, the person who's a caretaker of the graveyard picks them up, throws them in the bin. What's the purpose of that? That 30, 40 pound you could have fed someone. Some poor person's food for a week. Okay? And you satisfied your ego by putting some flowers on it. And is this our tradition? This is the tradition of the Muslims. Remember I told you, when it comes to religious matters, we have to be different. Would you be able to distinguish your grave from a Christian's grave or from a Jewish grave? And if you can't, isn't that a problem? Isn't that a problem? Shouldn't we be distinctive when we're alive as we are when we're dead? You look at the Al-Baqi in Medina. Do you see that? And these are people who were the wives, our mothers, alayhi salatu wasalam. They were the Sahaba, people who were not even worthy to be the dust on their toenail. Do you see that on their graves? Why not? Because people didn't care for them? People didn't love them enough? Of course they did. Okay? The difference is that they understood their religion, they understood who they were. Unfortunately, we don't. So we're monkey see, monkey do. We look around and say, oh, they're putting flowers on. We put flowers on as well. Because then they're going to say that, oh, you don't like your mom anymore. Yes, so it becomes like that. Yeah. Don't pee on them. Right, so yeah, that's a very, very good point, Sheikh. So, you know, people then start using ayats of the Quran, you know, on the gravestone, or things of that nature. And then bear in mind, animals go in there. Right? And obviously animals don't think, oh, this is a grave, I better not answer the call of nature here, I'll walk a few steps that way. They're just going to go where they want to go. So where's the etiquettes of that? Where's the adab of that? So these are important things to bear in mind. Could you please talk about what's happening now? About the degradation of Islam all over the world. Yeah, well, it was prophesied. We are the cause of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change. How's the ayat go? غَيْرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make the change. We are the actors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reacts. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. He tells us to act, then He acts. He always reacts. He waits on us to do something first. Why? So then we can say, Ya Allah, look what you did to us. He'll say, you did this. So we are where we are because look at our practices. Look at our homes. Look at our beliefs. That's where we are. It's not rocket science. If we are getting beaten in certain countries and certain places, what's our own halat in our streets? A week before I set off from Bradford, young 17-year-old lad, Muslim lad, in Ramadan, around the time of Taraweeh, got stabbed and killed. 17-year-old. Literally 4 minutes walk from, 4 minutes drive from where I am. In the middle of an Asian area. By a fellow Muslim brother. By a fellow Muslim. I don't know the situation in London. Same. There you go. Muslims killing Muslims. Yeah. And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, Al-Qatilu wal-Maqtulu fin-nar. Al-Qatil wal-Maqtul fin-nar. So the Sahaba radiallahu anhum said, okay, Al-Qatil fin-nar, we get that. Why Al-Maqtul? Because he had the same intention to kill his brother. إِذَا الْتَقَيَانِ مُسْلِمَانِ بِسَيْفَيْهِمَا أو كما قال. When two Muslims meet to fight each other, to kill each other, both go to Jahannam. And then we have this, rest in peace, brother. You're going to go to gangster's paradise. Right? There is no gangster's paradise. There's paradise for the believers, the meek, those who submit, not for gangsters. So we even then rest in peace, and then we're doing Isali Sawab for him. That poor guy didn't know how to do istinja, and we're doing Isali Sawab for him. Isali Sawab will only impact on that person who lived by those principles. Can we do Isali Sawab for Munafiqun? Can we do Isali Sawab for those people who never lived by the deen? How can we, when they did not live by the deen, how can they be supported by the deen now that they passed away? Because many even say, I know certain circles will say, that you can't even make Isali Sawab because the niyyah of the deceased is not there. How does he get reward for an act of worship when his niyyah is not there? Our ulama respond and say, but because that person lived like that. Mentions, it's not a narration, but Mufti Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala mentions it in Ma'arif al-Quran. Tamutuna kama tuhyuna, you die like the way you lived. And you will be resurrected like the way you died. So you die in a knife fight. How are you going to get resurrected? With angels reciting around you? So one thing is obviously that our youngsters are involved in this, but the other thing which is more dangerous is the way they then just, give a religious response to it. Shaheed, they say Shaheed, he's become Shaheed. How does a person become Shaheed who might be high on drugs trying to stab another 17, 18-year-old brother? How is he going to become Shaheed?
I'm not Shaheed.
But we have to challenge that. How is it that our 17-year-olds are out on the street at 1, 2 in the morning? Where are they? And if he says, I'm praying Taraweeh, then where's his father? Which masjid is his father praying in? And we're not just supposed to give birth to kids and then think, chalo, let's see what the world does to them now. They're our responsibility. They're our responsibility. See, when I go to see my mom, I know to you guys I look like about 26. But I'm older than 26. When I go to see my mom, she talks to me like she's talking to a kid. Don't forget to do this. And when students do that, do this. And I'm thinking, mom, I mashallah do quite a fair bit, Jump. Listen. Right? What I'm saying is, to this day, alhamdulillah, Allah reward her. She's concerned about my affairs. I might think it's a bit of headache, mom's giving me a bit of headache. But, you know, if I was a decent enough son, she's concerned about my affairs. As a whatever-year-old. I'm not going to let you out. 46. You know, so that's the problem, you know. But we are 17-year-olds and we don't know what their halat is. So we are to blame. Let's not look at, you know, the Zionists and conspiracy theory and whatever. Who's to blame here? So what we do is we deflect the problem. We can't deal with our own issues of, oh, look what's happened to the Palestinian brothers over there. Wait, what's happening to your kids here? Your kids are killing each other, selling drugs. You're cleaning the money, buying properties abroad. Isn't that more concerning? Yeah, the Palestinian brothers at least will become proper shaheed, defending a masjid. But we, you know, where's our anyway? So hopefully I've dealt with what's happening now. Usually in the Hanafi text we find that it's wajib to keep a fist-length beard. However, we see many Western scholars who neither keep a fist-length beard nor deem it to be wajib. What is the correct opinion in regards to this? What is the correct position of tasawwuf and bay'ah in the Sharia? Okay, the Hanafi texts say yes, it is wajib to keep a fist-length beard. I have heard that some who study in the Sham area will say that there is a Hanafi position which says that you do not require it to be a fist-length. I have not investigated that, I have not researched into that, and therefore, you know, I cannot give a view on that. All I can say is from the Hanafi position that yes, remember the Prophet of Allah ﷺ would let his beard drop all the way down to here. Okay, it would hang on his chest. He was a broad-shouldered man. Okay, long hair, dropped to his shoulders, and he had a full beard. You know, he was, when it's described, when he enters into Fateh Makkah, it brings tears to your eyes. Because he has his hair in 3 plaits, oiled. Okay? His beard groomed, oiled. So it's glistening in the sunlight. He has his dark green helmet, which comes down the side like here. And he has surma in his eyes. He had really long eyelashes. Beautiful, pearl-like eyes. Broad chest. He had a green chest plate on. Riding. Allahu Akbar. If you weren't a Muslim on that day, you would have become one just by looking at that. You know, what a scene that would have been, to have been witness to that scene. To have seen him riding in, you know, with that. Alhamdulillah. You know, we're fortunate to say, we are of that ummah. We can link ourselves to that man, that great man. So I hope that answers that question. With regards to tasawwuf, subhanallah, do you have like 10 hours? You know, it's too deep. So basically, yes, the Sharia understands a method of islah. Okay, the Sharia understands a method of islah, spiritual reformation. Okay, and that's, you can speak to ulama; they will explain to you in great detail. Bay is only so that we take a pledge of allegiance. This is just a pledge of allegiance. It took more of a political form before. Rasulullah used to take 2 types of bay. One was bay al-jihad, one was bay al-Islam. So when people would come to Islam first, he would take their pledge of allegiance. He would say, you cannot sin, you cannot steal, you cannot lie, you cannot do this. And they would say, nah, we accept. And that would be the pledge. When he would take the bay for jihad, he would sit back down again. Because this would test your iman. And he would say, who is going to join for this next battle? Come forward. So people would come forward and they would pledge their allegiance to him. Then there's big ikhtilaf that did they pledge allegiance ila al-maut or just for that jihad? So some ulama says ila al-maut they gave the pledge of allegiance. Some ulama say no, it was just for that jihad. So all this does, it's a contractual arrangement. It's a contractual arrangement. Sometimes the fuqaha mention a safqa. It's a contractual arrangement between 2 people. Between 2 people. Like the way a shagid becomes a student to an ustad. It's not just limited to tasawwuf. I know this gets played out a lot that this is all, it's not. This is all areas. So like a student who comes under the tutelage of an ustad, they will say, Ustaji, I will do, what do you want me to do? The ustad will say, you will do 3 hours door, you will do this, you will do that. When I tell you to do this, you will do this, you will do this. And the student will say, no. When then the student doesn't do that, then the ustad will remind him of that pledge. Remember the pledge we took. Because that's witnessed by Allah. That is witnessed by Allah. So it's a bond. Okay? What advice would you give to young men to help them become true, subhanallah, true qiwama for women? Oh, what a question. Alhamdulillah. I thought there were no sisters here. Well, let's just come through some of the mechanism. Yeah, so, mashallah, what a question. What a question. We become like lions in the house and pussycats when we walk out the door. Becoming a man is a really complicated topic, because becoming a man, the responsibility which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given that gender, that person, is huge. Okay, huge. And we just take growing up, the physical growing up of a child, of a male boy to become a man, to be that process. That's not what it is. There is a high level of nurturing that has to be brought in to make a boy into a man. You'll see 24, 25-year-olds, and don't get me wrong, if you play games, it's all right, bashing games for 10, 11 hours a day.
Like a kid.
Like a baby. Yeah, 10, 12 hours a day. He's 24 years old. And then you had the Sahaba who were like standing on their toes in Badr, so that's the Rasulullah would include them in the jihad. And he would dismiss them. He'd say, how old are you? And they'd say, I'm 14. Go. How old are you? He'd say, okay, come, go. Then he was very happy that he was included in the Uhud the year after. We know from those of us who come from the Indian subcontinent that the responsibility that used to be placed on a 12-year-old boy, 13-year-old boy, 14-year-old boy is very different than the responsibilities that we do here. But no, don't get him up for Fajr. He's got school, yeah. No, don't get him up. He's going to get tired. Yeah, but he's now 18 years old. Yeah, I know, but he's still a bad child. You know, should he give zakat? No, why should he give zakat for? He's only got £2,000. He gives zakat at that. When he gets married, inshallah. So we make our own rules then, and then when our kids turn out where they turn out, we say, how did that happen, you know? Haji? Yeah. Solve this problem, give me an amulet. That will take everything away. So, you know, there should be a course that boys should attend into becoming men. Maybe that's something which, you know, ulama can look into, where they take young boys becoming adolescents, take them out of the setting, maybe go to some nice lodges somewhere, and have like some kind of program, bit of archery, bit of, you know, becoming a man, understanding responsibilities. You know, if somebody out there who's that way inclined, mashallah, maybe that's an idea they can take under the support and the guidance of the ulama. You know, we need to do that. Maybe that's something we can look at. So I'm sorry I didn't answer it in detail. So again, I would say for that answer is follow Masjid. Right. Okay, so I don't know how long we're going to do this for.
We've got another 3 questions on WhatsApp.
No, yeah. Yeah, let's do them short now. That's a loaded one. Oh my God. Can a woman offer namaz whilst there are toys with eyes in the room? If there are toys with eyes in the room, they should be placed behind and she can pray. From where we have to congregate the line in Fard namaz? I'm not sure I understand the question. From where do we have to congregate the line in Fard namaz? The sas should be complete. I'm not fully aware of the question. What are the rulings for lowering the garment from the ankle? One shouldn't lower the garment beneath the ankle. Hadith is clear. Is it compulsory to keep a beard? Is haram to shave? Are we sinners by not keeping it? So hopefully that answers that. Teach first. Undergraduate programs. Marriage. Someone I am considering for marriage celebrates their own birthdays, family birthdays, etc. No mawlid though. That's a shame. Is this something which should be a deal breaker? No, I don't think that should be a deal breaker. I think that's something that you can converse with the person. If someone wants to get married to a girl and she prays for her family is dini and simple, but she does not observe hijab due to personal struggles, and my family is strict on hijab, should such a person, what is your advice? I don't know. I think, should I get married to such a person? I think there are certain things which are deal breakers, and you know, hijab is one of those which is a deal breaker. And remember, I've experienced many couples where particularly the man, sometimes the woman, goes through a religious phase. They get married, they're both kind of very similar, and one of the couple goes through a religious phase, the other person's not really on that journey, this person's going on their own journey, and now they start to have expectations on this other person. Why are you up here? And then the marriage problems start. So this is something we have to be careful. Marry somebody who's compatible with you, not that she's drop dead gorgeous. Okay, compatibility is more important. A person's gorgeousness will disappear in 5, 10 years time, 15 years time. Okay, but compatibility is something for life. And then when you're trying to raise children, you want to be raising children the same way. You don't want to have different positions on how you raise children. So then it becomes problematic. So, you know, think with your brain rather than with your eyes. And if all worst case scenario, follow Masjid Umer. Money. If someone claims money from the government for a specific purpose, but then that purpose is not 100% accurate, so the criteria to claim the money is not followed through, is this money haram? Yes, it is. Okay. So if there's any criteria that you've falsely given a statement, we cannot give false shahada. If we've ever given false statement to get any level of benefit, that benefit must be returned. Are you familiar with National Zakat Foundation? If yes, is it fine to give zakat to them? I consult numerous charities. One of the charities that I've started to consult is National Zakat Foundation. They approached me last year. And when they approached me last year, the policy I have approved now, and also I carry out regular audits. So they have now changed philosophically, they have now changed in their processes, they have now changed in their policies, they have now changed in their practices. My relationship is continuing with them right now. I find them to be open to my suggestions. I find no blocking, I find no hesitation. I have direct access to all their methods. They have this kind of software where the caseworker and the prospective recipient of zakat have a conversation. PDFs are posted on there. I see the full chat. I can see trace it from application to actually giving. I have full access to everything. I've never been stopped from going in anywhere else. So I will say, as things stand at the moment, yes, the difference that they have obviously is that they will use some zakat for admin purposes. They don't do that under Amilina Alayha. They do that under the Wakala Hila. There's a Wakala Hila, which is a legitimate one. Most of our Darulooms in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh use that very same Wakala in order to be able to access funds. However, a person can give sadaqah, so if they give sadaqah, then whatever they give as their zakat can go all to the hardship or can go all to the housing funds. So you will see, if you go to their website, you will see my fatwa, my certificate there. You will also see numerous videos that I've done which is supporting them. And it's not only NZF that I consult with. There is Noor Domestic Violence in London. I don't know, somebody may know of it. A sisters group that deals with sisters obviously who are being abused at home. I've recently written a policy for them, and I've also checked their processes, and I also audit them. My first audit rather will be after Ramadan. So this is a good way forward, that charities are utilizing ulama for their expertise to make sure that policies, practices and processes are Shari'i valid. Is my salah valid if my toddler with a wet, dirty nappy sits on my lap whilst I was praying salah? If there is najasat on the nappy and that najasat reaches your clothes, then your salah will become void. If obviously the najasat is not making its way onto your clothes and is retained within the nappy, which as I understand it, most nappies retain the moisture, then there's no harm. So if I'm working on a project aimed at increasing Muslim representation in my career sector as it would benefit Muslim communities in the UK, I want to include a tarbiyah element to it, spiritual development. To what extent is it important to have an alim scholar on board as an advisor? Very important. Absolutely important. Imperative. How do we focus on Taraweeh? We don't know the words. Simple. Learn them. Sorry for that flippant answer, but I needed to do one like that. How much contact communication is appropriate between two people speaking for marriage, and under what circumstances are these conversations permissible? Young people struggle with marrying without developing emotional connection. No contact should be made between two people speaking about marriage. None. You see a lot of problem, okay, happens is we have these conversations, they last for ages. They say, I don't really want to marry her, or I don't really want to marry him. Then they move on to the next one. Then these conversations start on for, whatever. What happens is one of them has feelings, the other one doesn't like. So these are non-sexual dating. What else do you want to call it? It's of a non-sexual nature. Obviously, there's never going to be touching or kissing or whatever else. But this is what dating is. In dating, two people meet, whatever the circumstances are, and they see if they've got compatibility. Yes, there has to be a meet once there's been some, to visually see this person. Visually, would I be attracted to this person? Yes, Sharia permits that. And also, when it comes to compatibility, then there has to be good communication between child and parent. So the mother knows her son really well. The mother knows her daughter really well, so that they know what their issues are. Then when they do meet, they should discuss the more broader things. Am I going to work? Am I not going to work? How religious am I? How are my children going to be raised? All these kind of general topics are discussed. And then we move on. Fortunately, we become very nakhre now. We do a lot of nakhre now. You look at your parents, how many times did they meet? Okay, they may have disagreements every now and then, but alhamdulillah, their marriages lasted 50, 60 years, 70 years. Our marriages last for 2 years and we're moving on to the next one. Yeah, we've done all this research and all this, holograms and, not holograms, what's the other one? The astrology thing. Horoscope, not holograms. We've done all the horoscopes and, where you're Virgo, I'm Gemini, and yeah, flower, and then we've, tested our blood supply and you're A+, I'm B-, oh yeah, everything works, and then day 2 they're arguing. So. I work for a Muslim charity, many men work there who are non-mahram. Is it okay? Can we go on group lunches? When, a lot of our sisters now work, and they work in mixed environments. It's not easy now for sisters to get jobs in single gender environments. But let me again re-emphasize, it is not a legal responsibility for women to work. There's no legal responsibility to do it. So women are generally working just to get out of the house, really, or as an intellectual thing. They need to develop the mind, get bored at home. There's other reasons where they do it for, okay? Because the Sharia does not put an obligation upon women to earn. It puts an obligation on the man to earn. Okay, so if a woman does work, then she should try to find those environments where it's a single gender. Mixing is easily, I don't care how much Sufis are sat in front of me right now, but mixing with the opposite gender will always go beyond work and potentially become friendly, okay? And then potentially can develop feelings. And if you're having a bad day with the missus, and you've had a few bad days with the missus, and you open up to the sister, you're looking for someone to talk to, these do develop, and we would be in absolute cloud cuckoo land if we do not think that there are lots of office affairs. I'm talking about Muslims, I'm talking non-Muslims, and now in Muslims, there are lots like that. There was a situation which I became aware of where people met, would you believe this now? The two people met, both married, in the Masjid car park when they were picking their children up after Maktab. That's how the affair started. So, if it can happen anywhere, I'm not judging them. Don't get me wrong, I didn't give you that example to judge them, that like, oh look how bad these people are. I'm giving you that example to say that shaitan can do these things. Right? He can do these things. As soon as you drop your guard, as soon as you think, yeah, I'm safe, you make a mistake. Sometimes a man or a woman don't really have a healthy physical relationship at home. Could be 3 months since they last, and the situation happens in front of him. Now, because he hasn't had intimacy with his wife for 3 months or 6 months or 7 months, maybe she's ill, maybe she's pregnant, whatever the reason is, he just takes one mistake. And zina is such a serious thing that the Sharia give rajam for it. That's how serious it is. So, we have to be very careful. I bought a home for the purpose of renting, but now I need to sell that home and buy another home for renting purposes. Keeping in mind this home is empty more than a month, do we have to pay zakat on it? No, because you didn't buy the home with the intention of selling it. When you sell it, the assets, if you have them, you will add them to your other assets on the annual zakat day. If you don't, if you buy the house before that, then you don't need to do that. Do we need to pay zakat on cryptocurrency? You guys and your cryptocurrency. Right? Oh my God. So we'll do this anyway for the sake of doing it. If everything is pre-written and predestined, how can we have free will and choices? Easy. Follow Masjid. There's no simple answer to that. Okay? It's a philosophical question that will have your head spinning around in circles. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ warned the Ummah not to delve in that too much into taqdeer. What is taqdeer? How does it work? It's beyond our intellect to understand. A simple way to do this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates all actions. Okay? So He creates the action of me throwing that tripod over and of not throwing that tripod over. So both acts Allah has created. We don't create acts. Okay? Now I have to do kasb. Yani I decide which act to do. Throw it over, don't throw it over. That's my choice. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all knew what I was going to do. And the reason we can't get our head around that is because we live in a timed world where one thing happens after another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is outside of time because time is a creation. And the creation cannot hold the creator. So to Allah, there's no such thing as time. So there's no such thing as yesterday, tomorrow. That's why it mentions, the Buzurgs mention, that we are already in Jannah or we are already in Jahannam. How was Bilal's footsteps heard in Jannah when he was in the dunya? Because the hereafter is in another plane, another time. Well, there's no time. That's why we don't age in Jannah. Otherwise, why don't we age in Jannah? Because there's no time. Time was created for this world to work. That, a man would be my father and I would be the father of somebody else. So that, I would look older than my son and my father would look older than me and he would be born before me and I would be born after him. And so we have this chronology so souls can be sent into this world. Otherwise, how would you send souls into this world and how would you take souls out of this world and how would you, the planet can only look after a certain amount of people. So Allah only created time. So we have time and then the night and the day and whatever. Well, unless obviously you're on itikaf and then you don't know what time it is. It just feels like one long day. Right? So I think, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, okay, cryptocurrency. And that wasn't aiming at anybody in particular. So I've written a paper, Bitcoin and Bitcoin, and cryptocurrency big problem is, that because it does not have a central banking system, anybody and everybody can make a cryptocurrency. So we had something called OneCoin, which went on the back of Bitcoin. Bitcoin became popular, so then we had OneCoin, this coin, the other coin. You now go, there's like tables and tables and tables of cryptocurrency. Question comes, why? Why do you need so many currency? Why is there only $1? Why is there only €1? Why is there only 1 sterling? And yet you see thousands of cryptocurrencies. What are they? A currency by definition is something that we use, that we give, that has value. And that is recognized. And the state controls it in the way that it establishes. Because if, say, that the whole economy collapsed, the state would ensure that that thing that I had will still have value. Okay? So, OneCoin turned out to be a fraud. Okay, OneCoin turned out to be a fraud. It didn't exist. People supposedly bought it. I had lots of contacts from London ringing me saying I've invested 10,000, I've invested 15,000, I've invested 8,000. I thought it was such a good idea. I took money off my brothers and my sisters and my mum and I put 25,000 in. These are in reality pump and dump schemes. I set up a cryptocurrency, right? I tell you that, oh my God, this is the next Bitcoin, guys. Special price just for you, because I like you. Never seen you in my life, but I like you. It's going to be, normal price is £50. For you, £5. Now this brother's not greedy, but greed hits him. Oh my God, he's telling me, Mufti telling me in 6 months it's going to be worth 50 quid. I'm going to put my money in, right? Cha-cha, you put your money in, Lala, you put your money in, Dada, you put your money in. So 25, 30 grand. I do this everywhere. I make 1 to 2 million pounds. And then I say, goodbye. Assalamu alaikum. And I disappear. Now you're saying with your little coins, when should we cash them in? And you get all this message, don't cash them in, don't be daft. Why would you want to cash them in? Keep them. They're going to go up, And then eventually when you get around to it and you want to cash them in, where are you going to cash them in? Who's going to give you money for it? Where are you going to go? To the Royal Bank of Scotland, to NatWest? Where are you going to go? Say, there you go, can I have some cash in return? No way. The British government, where are you going to go? If tomorrow Bitcoin disappeared, where are you people who got Bitcoins, where are you going to go to get your money? Who are you going to go to? So it's not in reality a currency. It's in essence an investment. Okay, it's an investment. And whenever you hear something that is too good to be true, then guess what? It's too good to be true. Yeah? Whenever you hear something which is too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Okay? We are supposed to be a community of hard workers. We're supposed to earn our money, not get quick riches. That's why gambling was made impermissible, things like this were made impermissible because they were quick rich schemes. Riba is the best way to earn money. Stay at home, you've got 1 million in your bank account, the interest from your 1 million in the bank account is enough to keep you going. Whatever 20 grand, 30 grand interest you're going to get per annum, you can just live off that. Why does the Sharia not allow these quick rich schemes and tell you to go out and work, to earn? So, 2008 it came out, and let's look at the technology and let's look at the currency.
What did you say last time? Yes.
Sorry?
What did you say last time? You said you stay home and you got money and you stay like this and you get a million. What do you
Yani, what I'm saying is if the Sharia wanted us not to take any risks or to work hard, then what we would do is have the money that we have, place it in a bank account where the bank would guarantee 2% interest or 1.5% interest, and every year our million would just generate interest.
Is it higher interest or no?
We could live off the interest. No, I'm saying if the Sharia permitted that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Why doesn't the Sharia permit that?
Oh, yeah.
Nice easy earning. Okay? Because it never permits these kind of easy earnings. It means we've got to work for it. So in terms of the way the Bitcoin works, okay, you have what you call miners. And what they will do is they convert information. First of all, you need some next level PCs to be able to mine. Right? You need memory and power on those things, which now is only in the hands of few. Before you could use a decent laptop at home, you can't use that, no chance. You have to have a room full of computers to be able to mine. Okay, so the average guy can't do this. Once you mine, okay, you convert the information into an alphanumeric string of characters called a hash. Then you add this to the chain to make a block, and this is then recorded in a blockchain ledger. But this means the transaction hasn't been confirmed yet. In order for the transaction to be confirmed and allowed, it has to go through a verification. This is when it opens it up to chance. So what the Bitcoin will do, it has an algorithm, and it will decide whoever has made this alphanumeric chain, which one of them is the winning number that will verify this transaction. Okay? Now, this is me simplifying it. It's intentionally complicated for obvious reasons, right? And miners will, based on the computer power that they have, it's decentralized, and that's its problem. That's its Achilles heel. Okay, it's decentralized. It came about obviously after the banks, bubble burst in the noughties, and people felt that we needed to take power in our own hands for our own money. And so there's clear gambling involved because there's uncertainty as to who and how the transaction will be validated. Because you don't know the process. If I want to go buy something from the shop, I have £100 in my pocket, I see a phone, I give £100, I buy it, khalas. Here, somebody has to generate this alphanumeric chain. Then this has to be added to this blockchain ledger. Then one person out of all, because you could generate millions of alphanumeric chains. Only one out of those is selected as the winning one to verify the transaction. So no one knows who's verifying the transaction. All is not known. In essence, we don't know who controls the system. It's somebody who will be controlling the system. No system is running, it's autonomous, but we don't know who they are, so there's no accountability. Okay, someone could just walk off with that, and they have done. And also, one of the other areas it has is this high level of instability. But also, because you don't actually hold anything in your hand or in a safe, but you hold it in an e-wallet, there's lots of cyber theft. So the Russians in particular, the Russians always get blamed, don't they, for cyber, and the Chinese. It's always the Chinese and the Russians. Never some American, you know, always Russians and Chinese. There has been millions stolen from e-wallets. Disappeared. And there's no way for you to trace it, and there's no way for you to get it back. So this is not something, because there's clear chance of loss to a believer, because of its decentralized nature, because of the way it uses gambling and chance to validate transactions. This goes against the principles of our Sharia. Therefore, cryptocurrency would have to be modified immensely, and it can't because it's essence like that. We're not taking questions from the floor, sir. So you can wave as much as you like. And for you, I've got your answer. Follow Masjid Umer. Okay, so that's cryptocurrency done. Zakat on Bitcoin. If you have invested in coins, okay, then best is to get shut of them. That's the best option. If you haven't, because some view it as an investment, some ulama have mentioned it as an investment, then you should give zakat on it if you took that position. Best opinion is to get rid of it altogether. Trading, cryptocurrency, I own land and I put on my son's name for future. Will I have to pay zakat on the land? If the land was bought for sale purposes, yes, you will give zakat on it. Irrespective of whose name is on it, is who owns it. Zakat on money held by a limited company when you are the only shareholder. Yes, zakat is due on the profits, not on the infrastructure of the business. In the UK, a limited company is seen as a separate entity, so it will only become as personal income if taken out of the company. No, in the UK, in Sharia, it's your business. How you dress it up as a limited company, as a sole trader or whatever, it doesn't really matter. If you own the business, it's your business. You will deduct anything which is infrastructure. Let's just say you own a grocery store, then anything which is the shop, the balance, the scales, the rest of the stuff inside the shop you want. But the produce that you have, that which is on the shelves, and also the income, the money in your bank, all that will be taken into consideration. So, WhatsApp. How many on the WhatsApp? Like 100 on the WhatsApp. 15. You guys are killing me, man.
There's one on Forex, but I'm just intending to go to your website.
Yeah, there's one on the website. Where is your question? There you go. Okay. Which organization do you give zakat to? I've already mentioned NZF. Umer Welfare Trust, I don't, Umer Welfare Trust don't use me as a consultant, so I cannot speak about Umer Welfare Trust. I'm sure they're doing a good job. They have ulama there as part of their body. But as me personally, I've not looked into it, so I can't answer. My mother wants me to marry someone back home in Pakistan, most likely within the family. I told her I do not want to do this. I want to marry someone over here and to find my wife from here. After a number of years of her not finding someone, I started looking myself, and I've potentially found someone, and I've been telling her to meet the family. She refused to meet them, and for the last 6 months I've stopped talking to me, even though we live together. My father's tried to convince her to meet them, but she still won't listen. What should I do? Consult a scholar. If this is someone local, come see Karisa. Yeah? Bring the sister, the mother, and let a scholar explain so that they can understand the Sharia better. These are issues of mitigation. When we have issues of mitigation, then our ulama can act like qazi, okay, like a judge. When there's ikhtilaf in the family, then the ulama act like judges. So everybody in the family must accept the qazi. Once they all accept the qazi, then the qazi's decision is final. They will put their cases forward. So the young lad who wants to get married will put his case forward. The sister, the mother of the son will put her case forward, and the qazi will decide. And everybody must act accordingly because the qazi is applying the Sharia. And as Muslims, we must go by the Sharia. And that is how we mitigate any issues we have at home. Preferably we set it ourselves, but if we can't set it ourselves, then we take it to ulama. That's why they're there for. I'm a sister in my mid-30s who's not married, and I'm starting to feel hopeless and depressed about my situation. I pray I have a job, come with a good family, try various website apps. In the past we've had a few proposals and friends, but they do not work out. I feel like I've passed my marriage soul by day and feel more depressed about my situation every day. I get, a lot of questions like that, but I don't get this because I get a lot of questions, I get a lot of requests from chaps, and I get a lot of requests from sisters. Sisters are looking for blokes to marry, and blokes looking for sisters to marry, so I don't get it. Maybe I need to set up some kind of website or something to make this job easier. There's no simple answer to that. This is something which is written, taqdeer by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We as a community should try to find ways of dealing with that and trying to resolve it as best as we can. But there's no simple answer. The one thing is, obviously, the general answer I can give is that we accept our taqdeer, whatever it may be. And we don't lose hope if it's something we want. So if we want something from Allah, we don't lose hope. And did Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam lose hope when he went into the minbar and made dua to Allah for a child? He was a very old man. When he saw what happened to Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam, his niece, and he saw that she was eating summer fruits in winter, and she was eating winter fruits in summer. And he asked, where are you getting this food from? Because he had taken the kafala. He was responsible for her upbringing. And she says it comes from Allah. So that gave him a little bit extra zest that if she can get this. So he asked for a child. And he was given Yahya, a very old man. Didn't Ibrahim a.s. get a child when he was an extremely old man? Didn't his wife go, Ya Allah, how can, what are you saying? I've been a barren woman for decades, how am I going to have a child? We don't lose hope. Okay? We don't lose hope. We always have hope if it's something we want. And we accept our taqdeer and we find ways to try to resolve it. And, as communities, we've got to come forward. Find ways to resolve these issues. I don't have a close connection to the Quran or Salah. I know Islam is the truth and we should read the Quran and Salah, but I struggle to even do the basics a lot of the time. My only childhood memory of reciting the Quran was not understanding any of it and getting beats. Kukri. Kukri kya hai? Oh, utbets. We call it utbets. What's kukri kya is about? What language is that? Which language? No, I know what it is. I'm just saying, what language is it?
Urdu, I think.
Is it Urdu? Kukri.
That's kukri. Chick. But that's kukri, that's not kukri.
No, anyway. Anyway, so clearly this person had a really good experience as a child. We didn't learn sabak at the mosque. Okay, how can I build a closer connection with Islam? So, the childhood clearly has had an impact. Unfortunately, obviously, we do see that in some places, in some makatib, in some masajid. It's unfortunate. So we've got to try to eradicate those kind of practices. We're seeing more professionalism now, alhamdulillah, because people like Maulana here, who are teachers in schools as well as teachers in makatib. So they're coming in with a level of professionalism. So that's a good sign. Well spoken, understand things better. So you can only get better. We were studying in a generation where it was very different. I used to remember when the stick would break. So we used to have a mini jungle in our street. So the ustad used to call you. They said, go get a stick. So we used to go out there, and obviously we were kids, man. So don't get upset at me. So we used to waste time a little bit, to get the best stick. And sometimes you would get the stick. So we find the stick, we take all the little twigs off, skin it as well. He liked one with a little bit of a whip effect. We would bring that in. So he said, oh, mashallah, I need to try it out now. So I don't condone violence, don't get me wrong, okay? But I look back at it with humor. As I said, I don't condone violence. It's not the right way. But we lived in a different era. And my dad's in his 80s, but has never really prayed. We tell him to pray, but he doesn't really listen. What can we do? I guess there's very little you can do. Make dua. What else can you do? Is in his last stages of life. Make dua for him. Try your best to change his ways. And then the only option would be is fidya, is to take from up to a third of his wealth and use that for fidya. And if it's a lot like that, then kum si Qari Sahib, he'll show you a healer, of how you can, deal with the fidya, but at the same time not have to give hundreds of thousands of pounds to go through that. In one of your tafsirs on identity, you mentioned when Allah said, "Don't be scared," to the Prophet when changing of the Qibla, he was able to cope. How can we cope in the same way when we are in the mode of fear in this journey of life when dealing with bad managers or toxic people? What the mindset we should have, as negativity is easy to fall into, lose hope. Yeah. So again, going back to the issue of hope, we are a nation that doesn't lose hope. Sometimes you see when you make the scenario in front of you as the be-all and end-all, like that, this is the biggest thing in my life, then you do lose hope. But when you put it into the bigger scheme of things, yeah, I've gone through difficulties before, I've survived, and I'll go, this is another difficulty, I'll survive. And even if I don't survive, I'm a worshipper, I'm a believer. I didn't expect life to be full of roses and rainbows. I expected life to be hard and difficult. It's my akhirat that I'm going to enjoy. So, take it on the chin. So we have to have that kind of positive attitude to expect life to be full of difficulties. If life was even better than it was now, look how bad life is, and yet we still hold on to it. We don't want to die. We've got fear of death. And look how, how bad it is. We fall ill. The knees start playing up, the back starts playing up, you start going bald. You get done over by your brother, you get done over by your sister, you get done over by your father, you get abused, relationships are toxic, and all these things, and yet still we clutch onto it. Now imagine if life was good, how many of us would want to leave? Nobody would want to leave. So in a way, alhamdulillah, think of your musibah as a good thing because it detaches you from the world. So again, it's about how you perceive things. It's how you perceive that problem. So if you think of it like, oh, this is Allah's way of detaching me from this world, so that I don't have trust in this world, I don't love this world, I don't, value this world. That's a good thing, I think. Not a bad thing. Haji? So a person follows the 18 degrees timetable. What happens if someone continues to eat after being told Sayyid is ended? Naughty, naughty. But after being told it's ended, they continue to eat for another 2 minutes. Done that from back in the day. Also thinking that 8 degrees ended with 50 kilometers an hour. You can't chop and change from 18 to 15 degrees when there's that burger sat in front of you, and if suhoor time is ending, and you think, look, that has to get eaten. But if I go by 15 degrees tonight, I can eat it. But if I don't go, if I stick to 18 degrees tonight, I'll have to eat this cold tomorrow. And you can't do that. That's following your desires. Like, how is that following Sharia? That's following desires. So if you eat after that time, then obviously it's qaza, isn't it? No, it's qaza for that one. For if you intentionally eat knowing that it's fast has started, then it's kafara. But if you eat with uncertainty about the end time, then it's qaza. So it depends how this person is thinking. If this person is certain that the fast has started and he's eating intentionally, it breaks the fast and it's kafara. In both cases, it will break the fast.
The kafara is only if they...
He's intentionally eating knowing that the fast has started.
He's made the intention of
fast.
He's made the intention of fast and he's broken intentionally.
Yeah. But whereas in the other case, if he suddenly decided as a big mufti that aaj to main 15 par jaunga bhai, right? Then then he's broken his fast still, but because his intention wasn't, that in his eyes in the fast, it's still wrong, obviously. But that that's the slight difference there. When doing good deeds and then asking Allah to accept our du'as based on those good deeds, is this discouraged or encouraged? No, we can do wisal through good deeds. We can say the 3 people who got trapped it mentions in numerous books of hadith, the 3 people who got trapped in a cave when a big rock boulder came, they also sought help through their good deeds. So one person said, Ya Allah, I used to go to work, and when I would come from work, I would milk the animal and I would give it to my mother and father first, and then I would give it to my children and my wife. One night I got back late, my parents had gone to sleep. So I stood next to them with the milk all night. And my children were crying at my feet, but I knew that I give it to my parents first, then my children. Their poor children fell asleep near my feet. Morning came, and then I gave it to my parents. I did this for the sake of Allah. If you accept that, Ya Allah, then open this cave a little bit. Move the boulder, and the boulder moved a little bit. So we can seek help. We can seek reward from Allah through our deeds. How do we differentiate between a mental health issue and jinn possession? There's no such thing as jinn possession. I need to say this outright. There is being affected by jinn, but not jinn possession. You see, there's going to be not much space in here if we have a nafs in here, if we have a ruh in here, if we have a qarina in here, and then a jinn says, can I move in as well? Well, where's he going to go upstairs? कितने जगह यार कितनी जगह भाई इतने चीजें अंदर रूह भी है नफ्स भी है करीना भी है हमारे साथ where is he gonna go? He said we can just double up, we'll share the double bed. All right, fair enough then. How is it? So you can be affected by jinn? Absolutely you can. Like the way waswasat we get from the shayateen all day long. Possession became a big issue when our involvement with Catholicism. Possession is a very Catholic demon possession is very much a Catholic thing, and especially in young girls, where young girls 13, 14, 15, 16 years old would become supposedly possessed by demons. We can be affected by jinn, absolutely all day long. We can be affected by shayateen. We are affected by shayateen all day long. Waswasa all day long, right? But do they possess us? That's not unheard. You know, do they control our movements? There's nothing in here that if a person possessed by a jinn was to eat, would his fast break? Have you ever seen that in the books of fiqh? Have you ever seen that in the books of salah, that if a person was possessed by a jinn, does his wudu become invalid? No, you don't see any of these conversations or discussions. So we can be affected by it, but not possessed. So mental, and this is the thing when we get, mental instability, even the mind is very difficult to understand. Mental health experts will tell you it's so difficult to understand the mind. The ruh cannot even be understood. At least the mind, some attempts can be made to try and understand how the mind works, how it deals with stress, split personalities, mental defragmentation. All these things can be assessed and analyzed. But people aren't really experts on this. At best they're kind of second guessing, because it's not a fixed science. It's not a natural science like you break your bone and okay, this will fix it, or you've got too much calcium, you've got hypercalcemia in your blood, so this will solve it. Those are very easy. When it's to do with moods and the way we think and the way we operate, that's a kind of a bit of a black art, a bit of a dark science, if you can use the word science. Okay, so you just got to go. So again, if a person is not stable, then you would try all avenues, whether it's medical intervention. But I've not seen anybody being given any medical intervention who's had mental issues apart from to sedate them, to just slow them down, basically, to make them less active. Talking helps a person deal with issues, mental issues, changing a scenario, maybe repairing a damage if this person has been through a very serious psychological, breakdown, losing a loved one or whatever. And also the use of iman. You notice a lot of the mental health experts are now realizing that faith plays a significant part in dealing with people's mental health issues. Before, because we're a secular society, it was a no-no, and the NHS would be frowned upon if they were using funds to bring Maulanas and ulama and priests into the hospital to solve problems. They'd be saying we're going back to the dark ages. But they're realizing that actually, you know what, I appreciate they're not realizing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to solve problems. They're saying that if this person believes that this is going to help him, then let's use that. So rather than acknowledging that God exists, that's their way around it. Anyway, let's go through this. Do I get Asr off, Mona? Do I get Asr off after? I've done double shift now. I'm a Hafiz with a speech impediment. Am I allowed to lead Taraweeh? My impediment is not major. It wouldn't impact on time, but more the experience of the congregation potentially. I would leave that to the Imam Sahib of the Masjid. Who am I to say? You should consult the Imam Sahib of the Masjid and let them make that decision, obviously assuming he's a learned scholar. If obviously the trustees make that decision, then really they are given the responsibility to run the masjid, so they will do what they see as fit. If you want a fiqhi response to that, then if a person is not impacting on the recitation. There's no lahn jalli, and also it doesn't impact on the receivership of the people, then there should be no harm. If it does impact on the listeners, then maybe only 2 rakats or something like that, because at the end of the day, the committee will come under pressure then from the muqtadis that we can't understand so-and-so or whatever. So I can't give a black and white answer. Are university students allowed to neglect paying back their student loans after they graduate, even though they are earning salary? Some say the loan will expire, there's no need. Well, this is a convoluted, so many issues here with this particular question. In essence, when we borrow things, we're supposed to return them. So I'll leave the answer like that. I own land and I put on my son's name, that came on the paper as well. Sometimes I feel that I need to do something, a big deed, or have do dua in a spectacular way, like the Imams of Mecca, and only then it will be accepted. I feel my dua isn't as powerful, I don't have the same excitement other people have while making dua. Dua is a private conversation between you and Allah. There's nothing about it being exciting, there's nothing about it being, what we see, the dua that is made, this is just zahir. Okay, the Imams will help us because we unfortunately don't know how to speak to our own Allah, our own Rabb. They'll help us. But dua is your specific conversation with your Rabb. Whichever language you want, how you want, broken, bitty, cry, one word, give, whatever. There is no assessment, there are no rules. There's no tajweed rules. There's no that this will nullify your dua. There's no, it's free. A free chat with Allah. He doesn't make these restrictions. So one shouldn't feel that their dua is like that. This is in their own heart. Don't feel your dua is special. It's between you and Allah. What happens if someone continues to eat after being told sale is ended, or we've had this already? He's come back. Or you like the answer, so yeah, right. Are home purchase plans okay to acquire a home? I don't know what specific home purchase plans that you're referring to. So I can, obviously those which involve inheritance, those which involve interest, are impermissible. I'm assuming that that's what it's referring to. Okay, alhamdulillah. Any questions that I haven't answered, or any questions that you were burning to know the answer to but didn't have time? One answer to all of them. What is it? Follow Masjid Umer. When in doubt, what do we shout out? Follow Masjid Umer.